Welcome back. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, which is the 1973 decision that established the constitutional right to abortion in the United States. Now, the opinion is the most consequential Supreme Court decision in decades and will transform the landscape of women's reproductive health in America. Joining me now is the founder of lead advocate at the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights, Dr. Ameena Ali, and she's been here before. She's here again. And Dr. Ali, glad to have you back. I'll start first of all with, we talked about this before. We talked about when it was first leaked out, and no surprise, but let me get, again, your reaction to now the official overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Well, thank you, Daren. And, you know, I can honestly say that this landmark decision, as you said, the 72 decision that changed the lives and the responsibilities of this autonomy for women really, really set a precedence. But Friday opened doors to that change. We now realize that we cannot do this with the help of the government. We have to do this for ourselves. And there has been a groundswell to this grassroots organization, this meaningful march that is going on in our households rather than outside. And we are getting ready for this ethical and equitable lens of change to happen, because it's gonna happen. So I'm ready whenever you are. Let's go with this.
Well, we're going right at it. When we talk about the law itself, obviously, many people have spoken out saying that this wasn't even called for. Where did it come from? All of a sudden, the Supreme Court makes a ruling. Where did it come from?
Well, it came from a local Mississippi ruling. And I'm glad you asked that, because I was going to bring that into claim. It is a local Mississippi, little rural, small town Mississippi. It was a 15-week abortion that they reviewed. And they saw that the review of that case really put into question the woman and her choice into review. And it spurred this expanded matter case. So what they did is they took the case and they said, let's look at this. Let's pick it apart. Let's see what this is about, why this is. And then they took the matters of that case and their agency, which is the Supreme Court, remember, highest court in the land, used their powers and their agency to set a precedent on a national level. So they took rural Mississippi and set it for the 50 continental states and Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. And they said that they wanted to review Roe v. Wade and review it on a national scale and on the federal level. So like I was saying before, they took it from legal or lawful in the law that they gave us to political now. And they're doing that for a reason.
And what reason is that?
Well, first of all, they can. Let's just understand that they have the jurisdiction to be able to review laws, review sanctions of laws, and review the amendments to those laws, especially when it deals with the Constitution. They have that right in order. Then they have the precedence to detail it, whether it be a federal mandate, which means for everyone in the United States, or will it be a state-by-state legislature. Then they put into it why they're saying it, why they're sanctioning. And this could mean something as little as, you know, too many people are dying because of this and they want to change the laws to protect the people, or not enough people are vented in that manner, which means it only pertains to a small population. So we're going to expand it for a greater population, and they expand the option. But never once has their lifetime, and we call it lifetime appointment, has any representation of body, executive, judicial, whatever, has ever changed the law that we have not asked to be reviewed. Never. So we have to ask what this was. First of all, the distraction was when they nominated Juneteenth as a holiday. That was the distraction, because they wanted to get everybody all hyped up about something that they were been asking for years. Now, all of a sudden, in the clear blue, they're just going to announce it that Juneteenth is a national holiday. But that was the distraction, because they already had that in rights that they were going to announce it almost on the same day. And they did that because their allegations to this was the duality of intention to change laws in one way to make it look like we gave you something because we're about ready to take something away. And that was where we needed to see the big shoe to drop when they gave us Juneteenth, because I sure was curious as to why they did that, especially this year when there was no precedence for this year for it to happen.
When we look at where we are right now, obviously a lot of states have taken this immediately into effect. We saw states moving swiftly, but then we see New York, and New York saying that we're going to be a sanctuary state for those persons who are considering abortion. Your thought on New York being a sanctuary state?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Never in life has people of color and womanhood ever been put together until now. We always see Black women this, or women this, or Black people this. We never see Black women of color or Black women in the sanction of it until now, because we know it affects most people, especially most women of color, in this right. So that has been a new term. People of color or women of color has been put into terms so that we have the both the orientation and the sexuality added in there. But New York went one step further, which I love it. They said, not only are we going to be a sanctuary, but we're going to be an education state. That just went in, I think, this week, where we're going to not only have the education, but we're going to instill it in our schools, our homeschool matters, and make it even an elective if we're going into college or liberal arts pieces. Of course, it's not going to start until probably September or January, but we're making certain that not only do they get the availability, but they get the education for preventive matters. Remember, Roe v. Wade was woven into our view when we voted for it, but now it seems as though it's being cast as a political opinion. The political opinion is that we shouldn't have it, it shouldn't be delegated federally, it should be given to the states, and then only the states that want to ban it and make it legal, make it illegal, so that we can increase the detention numbers or the incarcerated numbers of people that are doing that. But it's an invasion of privacy. It started with the COVID thing, where they had to make us show health cards and make us show that we were inoculated to the people that were serving us. You know, when you went into restaurants, but the people in the restaurants never showed us our COVID card. You know, you serving our food, can you show us your COVID card? Now they're taking that a little step further. They realize they got the win in that. They were allowed to invade your health disparity. They were allowed to get into your health care network. They were able to show you cards. So now what they're doing with this, and you'll see, health-wise, is they're making it almost a public matter if you have an abortion, almost like getting a COVID shot. They're going to make it so that the medical records will be released so that prosecution can happen. That is such a breach of confidentiality, such a breach of personal space and advantageousness, that I've even heard in the buzz that if this actually goes through, that they start making it illegal in certain states, and people, it's going to be a mass exodus, and there's going to be more people in New York than we know what to do with.
Well, there are potential legal consequences. There are potential legal consequences for people in New York State who will assist people from out of state to have this abortion. Talk to us about that, because this could be pretty much landmark in itself too, because while we are a sanctuary state, if some lawmakers have their way, they're saying, you do that in New York, you keep that in New York, don't let it come across the border, because if it comes across the border, there's going to be consequences for that abortion provider.
Correct. And that's correct. Being a sanctuary state, just understand, most people hear sovereign, but sanctuary state is just that. You can lay in comfort here in the state. So let's just understand what the word sanctuary means. And it is described as somewhere where you can gain rest. So when you're a sanctuary state, when it deals with abortion rights, and the access to it, it is not only affording based on the states. If the states can ban it, they can also accept it. So they have to have that duality, and they cannot erase that from the fabric of the lawful practice. If you have states that say it's illegal, that's fine. But then there's going to be states that allow it, and you cannot have precedence against that. So what that means, as I told you, there's going to be a mass exodus, because people are going to be coming into the states, gaining residence to be able to do this, and then may be able to leave and go back. But once they gain residence, there's nothing other states can do. So there's going to be a tally in New York where there's going to be an influx of people, or there's going to have to be rules change, laws change, and those that are practicing here. I'm hoping that if we get more people that are coming here, that we get more physicians, more medical care, because that's going to mean not only just for abortions, but there's going to be access to more medical care here in New York, which is going to make a landmark in access to care. That's what we've been asking for years. have more available language and culturally competent medical practitioners here in New York anyway. So if this is the way to bring it in, then it's a win-win for those that are looking for this. Now, on the con side of this, New York is going to be a sanctuary state for the simple fact that there isn't any other. If you think about it, look around New York. There isn't any other. So who else is going to do that? Are we going to go out west? Are we going to go up north? Are we going to cross the border into Canada? Are we going to go into Mexico and some of the places in the Caribbean? I mean, where else are we going to sanction ourselves in this sanctuary area? Where else are the women going to be able to have this net? So we have to look at, we could talk about the negativity on the con side of being a sanctuary state, but who else is going to do that? And when your child is saved from a what do we call it, a clothesline or a hanger abortion, and they're saved from the proclivity of that, and they are healthy after their abortion, you're going to thank New York.
Talk to me about women that you've been talking to in your network. What's been the reaction? What's been the conversation right now since the decision's officially been handed down?
Wow. First of all, lifetime appointments should end. That's the first thing. Supreme Court SCOTUS should not have a lifetime appointment. It worked in the beginning, and like we said in a previous interview, it worked in the beginning and it served its purpose because we didn't have anybody there. We wanted to make sure someone would always be there. That's fine. But there is a disconnect from SCOTUS and the people that they serve. They're actually older. Most of them there are older than the generations that they're serving. And 80% of them, and we just looked, are not even childbearing anymore. We looked at those that are, right. So how are you dealing with a measure that is not even dealing with the generation that you're in? Then we're looking at those regulations that they're setting a precedence for, and they're getting ready to be gone, so to speak. Some of them are 70, 80 years old, and they're about ready to leave this earth. So you're leaving a mark on society that we have to live with and our children have to live with. And that's what we're saying needs to be reviewed. So the conversation is saying that Roe v. Wade was written by white males for the women that it didn't pertain to. It was pertaining to women of color, women of indigeneity, and those that were undocumented. And it was rules of inclusion that disallowed option. So when we took this new thing that happened Friday, we took all the people that were already disadvantaged and pushed them behind. They were already left behind. Now we pushed them behind. So now we need to put into place a lens of help and support for each other in the solution. So we're going to carry it to our own homes. So we're making educate right now. After I get off this interview, I have to set in a meeting at 2 p.m. and I have to set a precedence for academia to introduce this, and how we're going to introduce it into high schools and into colleges and freshman year and all of the things that are going to matter where abortion rates are the highest. How are we going to add this as an adage, and what are we going to put into place so that they are not only educated, but they're protected and the resources are there for them?
Yeah. And the conversation among students. I mean, obviously you're going into the classroom, as you said, talking about preparing and having that kind of dialogue. What do you say to people who really are troubled by this? Because you have some people who are in support and you have many that are troubled by it. But what's the word that you say to those people who are troubled by it?
Well, I say don't despair. Worry has never changed anything. I think if you're educated, if you're properly informed, and if you're responsible for your reproductive justice that you have, then it really isn't anything to worry about, because this doesn't even apply to you. I say this to the women I mentor and the women that are pregnant. Now I say, if you chose to have this baby and this is a part of your family planning plan, then you really have nothing to worry about. This is so far beyond need. However, there is a woman that is going to be raped. There's a woman that's going to be a survivor of molestation and incest. There's going to be a child that is going to be riddled without allowance for them to assume their own assumptions of their sexuality that is going to be handled by a man that is probably 2 or 3 times older than her in a sexual manner, resulting in a pregnancy. And we are seeing this happen now before Friday. And we're saying that the resources still need to be there. But the thing that we're saying the most, and I think that one of the things that AOC even mentioned, she said that, abortion actually saved save the reputation and the marriages of some of these high-ranking officials, and she even said even GOP officials. And now that they're out of their prime and no longer having that option, now abortion has to be reviewed. And it was funny that she would be the one to say that, but it is so true that, you know, it's women that are sanctioned in their family planning that are not worried about this. They know they want to have a baby in 5 years. So then, you know, even if they're married, they know that their plan is responsible enough to not have a baby. But for those that are attacked, those that are sanctioned to make that choice or have that decision, they're making sure that their education is including sanctuary states and the rules of the game now that we are here. So we're hitting the ground running. We're making sure that the rules are in place and that the education will go forward so that they can make these intelligent decisions with real-time information.
I know that you got the boots on the ground. You talked about you get ready to move on in the class and get ready for this, but talk to me about how long have you actually been getting ready for this? We knew that this was possibly leaked out before last time we talked, but how long have you been in preparation for or anticipation of this actual moment coming to pass?
Well, I am a young Black woman in the United States, and I say young Black because I want to believe that my voice is still energetic. And I am in this for the very reason that every woman of color is in it, for equality and justice. Before we had this overturning of Roe v. Wade, which I just hate to even say it, but before we even had this, back in 2008 or 9, we were setting up classes to have proper registration and amalgamation with family planning, making sure you understood the difference between a birth product and a birth control method, making sure that you knew your choices and options in this, making sure that women were educated in not just using, you know, abortion as birth control, but using the guidelines of proper family planning as their go-to mark. So we've been doing this since about 07 legitimately. Now, of course, we've been doing it since I started in medicine in the 90s, but we have been doing it legitimately since about 07. And we didn't even use Roe v. Wade because, again, we didn't even see this coming until like 2010, 2012. Then when 2015 hit and they started talking about Roe v. Wade and overturning it, and then we had these political bonfires that happened in society with the deaths of Black and brown individuals, we decided that we were going to up the ante. We were starting to start programs that was designed for 5th and 6th graders, and now 3rd and 4th graders, where we're starting to talk about this so that they become more used to the conversation. But what we have been doing is educate. That is the far and above the greatest precipitating measure to stop abortions in its infancy in this new going forward. And I say infancy because our plans are not new, but the motivation and the movement of it certainly is.
So for you right now, obviously a lot of concern, a lot of education, a lot of information that's going to be out there to your students and to those in your community. How do you get the word out for what is available for New York women? How do you get the word out for what's available for those persons who may still want to consider abortion?
You know, it's funny that you asked me what is out there. It's always been out there. You can go to your neighborhood Planned Parenthood, which is the macro level. The meso level is go to your doctor. That's the local level. That's, you know, go to your doctor, start asking questions. Stop allowing the doctors to tell you what they want for you and start saying, this is what I want, how do I get it? Or this is what I need, how do I acquire it? Stop allowing the doctors to tell you what their plan is for your reproductive life. Then on the micro level, you can go to educators like myself. My organization, the Federation of International Gender and Human Rights, of course, is a great premise. You can go to our website, FIGHR.org. All of that information is there. It's FIGHR.org. We can put that in a measure of goodness and granting. There are scholarships there for education that's there. There are school programs and projects that we're putting into place. And there are definite education models that we are exacting as of September of this year into the school system so that we can get this education out sooner than later.
Dr. Ali, what do you say to the critics who say, listen, abortion is murder and it just simply is the taking of a life? And so the ones who celebrate Roe v. Wade and the ones who say we celebrate the fact that abortion is murder and taking of the life, and the Supreme Court made the right decision.
Okay. There is not a person that I am that is hearing my voice, that that I know, that anyone in the sound of this episode has not been affected by abortion, whether it be through a medical abortion because the child is unfit, whether it was a choice between the mother or the child through a health disparity, or whether it was knowledge that the child will not live past birth and decided to end the abortion. Everyone has been affected by abortion. We're not looking at the person that, oh, I had random last night sex with someone and now I'm pregnant. We're talking about someone that is walking down the street on her way home and is attacked and raped and now is resulting by pregnancy. Or the woman that finds out that her child has Tay-Sachs disease or some disease that knows that the baby probably will not have a quality of life or will not live past birth. Or a woman that is in a medical throes between keeping the baby and keeping the mother alive and has to make that decision, or the family has to make that decision. This is where we are looking at where abortion should be legalized. We are looking at it for the medical constituency of those that need it, not those that want it and want the access to it. We want it for the legal ramifications of those that have to make that decision because it is life or death. We are wanting women to have choice, and we're wanting men to step out of our choice. It is men that are making this a hot button topic, and it is men that decided to overturn something for women. I didn't see any measure for any kind of blue pill law into place. And I didn't see anything where they're controlling where men can have sex. Case in point, women can have sex every day for a year, 365 days, but they can only get pregnant one day a year. One day. And they can only stay pregnant throughout that entire year. So whether they get pregnant in January or December, they can only get pregnant one day a year. Then that same man, or a man having the same sex every day for 365 days can literally sire 365 babies. So who needs the birth control now? You're looking at one woman having one pregnancy that she may choose to abort based on the mate or her choice. But we have men that are procreating on such a wide span that are impregnating these women and are not giving the accountability of that at conception. So we're harnessing the blame on the woman because she's committing the act, but we're not coming into this for the men. If we had child support for conception, a law that says that you have to pay for it if you are part of it. If she has to go through it, you have to pay for it. If she is getting legal ramifications of it, if we prove that that is your child, that you should pay part of her court costs. Let's put that into parameters. Let's put that into perspective. Let's allow the men to be equally as responsible for that child rather than throwing the women under the bus simply because she made a decision.
I want to talk a little bit about the backlash that's been going on. Several protests have been made since this decision has been going on. Talk to us. I know you've had firsthand experience of the protests.
That's right. Union Square on Friday was 418 strong, as she said. And we had all of the people rained out and everything. And we were still standing there with our microphone that was drenched in water, but was so powerful in the energy. And we stood before those that we knew was going to hear our voice, and we protested. And we said our voice is going to be heard. And that night is where we sat down and we developed our educational plan and our legal plan that we're going to deal with new lawyers coming into law and new doctors coming into medicine, that they are going to begin to educate. And we're going to have them to educate on reproductive rights and reproductive responsibility. And this is going to be a law and medicine meshing. So we're going to take it from our voices and our wombs into the lawmakers and the hands of those that are coming up. So freshman lawmakers, new doctors, and new lawyers are going to hear our voice. And they're going to hear it for the first time in such a veracity that is going to embed it into their tenure as a doctor, as a lawyer, as a politician. So they're going to only know, just like when you become a doctor, you know AIDS now, and you know the suffrage of COVID now. It's woven into the factor of your medical practice or your legal practice. We're going to weave this Roe v. Wade piece into their legal practice, their medical practice, and educational practice, as well as the politicians as well.
Yeah. Are you satisfied with what you're hearing by New York lawmakers and those in power in New York?
Some of them are not speaking, and silence is an answer. Some of them are speaking very loud and almost speaking for us. The AOCs of New York are saying things that we need to hear, and that's why she's in that seat. But there are some that are specifically quiet, and these are the ones that we really want to hear from because they actually backed a leader. These are the ones that we aren't hearing much from. Then there are some that is so pervasive. Sitting senators are saying, okay, we did Roe v. Wade, now let's do Brown versus the Board of Education. What did you just say? That, I looked at that tweet and I said, are you serious? And showed his face. You know how sometimes they blur the face or do some kind of nom de plume on social media and say certain things. No, they show their face. They are emboldened to this. And now they are more conscientious to be able to say the things that they want to say because they know now that they think that they have a voice. There's always been more of us than there are of them. And their tenure to turn their office into a vice and vessel for their good is something else that we're looking at also. So we're waiting for their voice to come out. We're waiting for the saturation of their voice and what it really means. And then the silence, what we're going to take that to mean as well.
Yeah. Are you concerned? You brought up Brown versus Board of Education. Are you concerned? Many people have said this is a possibility that could also reach the Supreme Court as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, because there is no stopping. They managed to get through the Privacy Act through COVID. They did that in a landslide, and it actually surprised me because I didn't think the AMA or HIPAA, hospital regulations, I didn't think they were going to go for that. I thought they were just going to say, nope, it's a violation of privacy. We're not going to have these cards out here. They stopped doing it with immunization cards with the kids because they realized it was a violation of privacy. So now they bring out cards with the CDC and using the sovereignty of CDC to be able to bring these cards out. And it was just wrong, but they got away with it. So now they're more emboldened. So now they took Roe v. Wade, which is the next set of laws that they wanted to overturn. Now, Brown versus Board of Education. They've been trying to do that, but there's too many people in legislature that voted for that. They're still sitting senators, and so that's going to take a while. They may have to die out or resign or retire or do something before they manage that. But there's too many seating congressmen and women that voted into that or voted that to continue the Brown versus Board of Education. So they're going to do, and there's not too many people that's going to go for that anyway. Roe v. Wade is just a subset of a subset, but it affects women in its totality. But it's not something that I think Roe v. Wade was a what is it? They took our temperature with that to see what that is. So now we're going to be preemptive with such things as Brown versus Board of Education.
Dr. Ameena Ali, love hearing your voice. Thank you so much for sharing with us and bringing us to into the light and to the education of what's going on. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. And I really appreciate all that you're doing and all that you're making visible for this topic. I'll see you again soon.
All right. See you soon.